The fate of the kingdom did not rest on the king's army, but on my lap. The gods demanded not gold or grain, but ecstasy. This was the sacred marriage, and I was the vessel. In the heart of Uruk, where the great ziggurat of Anu pierces the heavens like a mountain bridging earth and sky, the Akita festival dawned upon us as the barley fields lay fallow and the Euphrates whispered low in its banks. The city held its breath, for the turning of the year brought not just the promise of renewal, but the peril of divine judgment. The people gathered in the shadow of the temple walls, their murmurs like the rustle of reeds in the wind, awaiting the signs from the gods. The king, Lugal-Zagizi, chosen by the assembly of elders and marked by the stars, had endured the ritual humiliation at the Asagila temple, stripped of his regalia, his face pressed to the dust before the statue of Inanna, confessing the sins of the land to prove his humility before the divine. Now, still dusted with the earth of that prostration, he was led before me in the inner sanctum, his eyes lowered not in shame but in reverence. I stood adorned as the priestess, the high servant of Inanna, the queen of heaven and earth, she who commands the me, the sacred powers that order the cosmos. In this moment, I was no mere woman of flesh and blood. I embodied Inanna herself, the lady of the evening star, the one who descends to the underworld and rises again, bringing life from death. And he, the king, was not a mortal ruler burdened by the cares of granaries and canals. He was Dumuzi, the shepherd king, the beloved consort who must prove his worth through union, lest the land wither and the gods turn their faces away. As the sun climbed toward its zenith, casting long shadows over the baked brick streets, the procession began toward the Jaipar, the sacred precinct where the mysteries unfolded away from the profane gaze. The air thickened with the scent of cedarwood incense, harvested from the distant mountains and burned in braziers to summon the favorable winds of the gods, mingled with the sharp, resinous myrrh that clung to my robes like the breath of the divine. Upon my neck hung the weight of lapis lazuli beads, a meandering line of sky brought from the far lands beyond the Zagros, their cool, heavy touch pressing against my skin as carnelian stones, red as the blood of sacrifice, dangled from my ears, symbols of the fertile earth that Inanna blesses. The priests and priestesses flanked us, their voices rising in harmonious chant. Lady of the evening, I will sing your praise, O Inanna, star of heaven, make the land fruitful. The words echoed off the temple walls, woven with the rhythm of lyres and the deep thrum of drums, invoking the ancient hymns passed down from the time when the gods first shaped the black-headed people from clay. The king's hand, extended to mine in the ritual gesture, trembled not from fear of battle or intrigue, but from the unbearable weight of his duty, for his legitimacy as the Ensi, the steward of the gods on earth, hinged upon this divine test. Should he falter in the sacred marriage, the kingdom's fortune would crumble. Floods would ravage the fields, locusts devour the crops, and rival cities like Kish or Lagash would sense weakness and descend like vultures upon a dying beast. Yet in his eyes, I saw the resolve of Dumuzi, ready to submit to the goddess's embrace, for through this act, the cosmic order would be reaffirmed, the king's divinity sealed, and the land's prosperity assured. We ascended the steps to the inner chamber of the Jaipar, where the ceremonial bed awaited, an altar draped in sacred linens woven from the finest flax, their rough texture a reminder of the earth's raw bounty, blessed by the touch of Inanna's handmaidens. This was no bed of idle pleasure, but a throne of the gods, elevated on a dais of cedar planks, surrounded by flickering oil lamps that cast golden light upon the walls inscribed with the deeds of past kings and priestesses. The high officials stood in silent vigil, their robes embroidered with the symbols of the 7 planets that govern fate, bearing witness as the eyes of the gods, Anu the Skyfather, Enlil the Windlord, and Enki the Wise Waters, gazed upon us from the unseen realms. As priestess, my role was dual. I wielded immense spiritual power, communing directly with Inanna to interpret her will through dreams and omens, guiding the temple's vast domains that stretched across fields and orchards. Yet politically, I advised the king on matters of war and alliance, my voice carrying the weight of the divine in the assembly. But in this ritual, I was the vessel, the conduit through which the goddess descended, my body a bridge between heaven and earth, my function ritualized to ensure the cycle of life continued unbroken. The king approached, his form purified by ablutions in the sacred waters drawn from the Abzu, the freshwater abyss where Enki resides. My words rose not as whispers of mortal affection, but as invocations drawn from the ancient tablets. May the king be long of days, may the land be fertile, may the storehouses be filled with grain and the flocks multiply. The act was swift and solemn, a merging of essences that mirrored the union of sky and earth, rain and soil without excess or delay. For this was the spike of the rite, the moment when the king's seed became the promise of abundance, tested before the divine assembly. The officials murmured affirmations, their presence ensuring the ritual's purity, as the cosmic forces aligned in that fleeting convergence. Then came the silence, profound as the depths of the core, the underworld where Inanna once journeyed to claim her sister's throne. The king was led away by the attendants, his steps steady now, his divinity confirmed for another year, the mantle of Dumuzi settling upon him like a cloak of stars. I remained upon the bed, the goddess's presence ebbing from my limbs as the handmaidens anointed me anew with oils scented of myrrh, their cool touch restoring my mortal form. This story, pulled from the dust of ancient tablets, is why DarkTruth TV exists. We are all scribes, in a way, preserving these forgotten truths. If these echoes of our past resonate with you, if you feel that pull to understand the deeper currents of history, then your engagement becomes part of the ritual. Subscribe to DarkTruth TV to join our community of seekers. By turning on all notifications, you ensure you never miss when we unveil another piece of our hidden history. But the conversation does not end with me. The gods demanded ecstasy. I demand your perspective. What do you believe was the true source of the king's power, the ritual, or the belief of his people? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. In the adjoining chamber, a temple scribe bent over a damp clay tablet, his stylus scratching the wedge-shaped marks with deliberate precision. For Inanna, a bed was laid. The king entered. The sacred marriage was consummated in the Jaipar. These cuneiform records, baked later in the sun to endure the ages, documented not only the rite but the economic reality that bound temple and palace, the vast wealth bestowed upon us as offerings that blurred the line between devotion and payment. Talents of silver from the royal treasury, broad tracts of land along the canals for the temple's cultivation, herds of livestock, oxen, sheep, and goats, to sustain the priestesses and feed the god statues in daily rituals. Such gifts ensured the gods' favor, for the temple was the heart of Uruk's prosperity, its granaries overflowing when the rites were performed aright. As the scribe impressed the final signs, the first drops of rain began to fall outside the temple walls, pattering upon the parched fields like the tears of Ninhursag, the mother of the land. The crowd beyond let out a collective sigh, a wave of relief rippling through the air, for this was the immediate sign, the heavens opening to bless the earth, confirming that the king's test had been met, his performance deemed worthy by the divine. Weeks passed, the moon waxing and waning in its eternal dance, as the Euphrates swelled with the melt from distant mountains, irrigating the furrows prepared by the farmers' plows. Then, in the fields beyond the city's gates, the first green shoots of barley pushed through the cracked soil, tender blades reaching toward the sun like the fingers of the resurrected Dumuzi emerging from the underworld. The people cheered the king's power, gathering in the marketplaces to sing praises to Lugalzajizi, attributing the renewal to his wise rule and martial prowess, blind to the deeper currents of the cosmos. They did not see the connection, the thread woven by Inanna's hand from the Jaipar to the furrows, but I felt it in my bones, the ache of the ritual lingering like the imprint of the lapis beads upon my skin. As priestess, my power extended beyond the bed. I oversaw the distribution of the temple's wealth, allocating silver for canal repairs and livestock for sacrifices, my political influence ensuring that the king's edicts aligned with the god's will. Yet in the quiet of the Jaipar, I knew the truth. The transaction was complete. The sacred marriage, a cosmic exchange where the king's essence fertilized the land as surely as the river's silt. Life was renewed, the cycle unbroken, and Uruk would thrive under the watchful eyes of the stars. They called it sacred prostitution. I called it a harvest. We sowed the seed of a king, and the earth, in return, gave us its own. A harvest, sown in the sacred dark to feed a kingdom in the light. The threads of power, belief, and survival are woven together so tightly that to pull one is to unravel the entire tapestry of history. This has been DarkTruth TV. If you found this journey into the past revealing, please give this video a like. It helps others find their way to these hidden stories. Subscribe for more investigations into the forgotten truths that shaped our world. I am but a scribe, sharing what the dust has tried to hide. Until next time, stay curious.